Joining us now to discuss Trump's move to bring Greenland into the fold is Rod D. Martin. He's geopolitical analyst and the founder and CEO of Martin Capital. Rod, thanks for joining. The meeting was described as tense with Vance and Rubio. What do you think happened?
Yes, I imagine it was. But the real headline here isn't how tense the meeting was. It's that there was a meeting. And this is really the thing. The president is famous for his maximal demands, which aren't necessarily anything close to what he wants to end up with. It's how he gets people to the table. It's how he makes them worry, puts them off balance, and makes them actually work toward a mutually acceptable deal that'll be a win-win. And I think, have the outlines of that deal. It's going to take a minute for Denmark and Greenland to wrap their brains around it, but I think it's going to be really good for all parties.
Yeah, as you point out, he sort of goes well beyond his position to get people somewhere to the middle. So what is the background, though, between Greenland and Denmark? Do you have a sense for what the majority of Greenlanders within that very small population relative to the size of the landmass, what do they want?
Well, there's mixed polling on this. There was a really good poll, we thought, done just shortly after the president took office that indicated that a majority of Greenlanders were at least open to this idea. Now, that was widely poo-hooed when it was reported at all, but we talked about it here on NTD and in other places. That pollster had perfectly predicted the outcome of the U.S. election in November of 24. So there's every reason to believe they know what they're doing. Around the same time, there was a poll in a Danish publication that said maybe 3 people in Greenland liked the United States at all. So, what do you expect? But it's hard to get really good polling in an area that has 57,000 people and where the Danish control the outcome of a lot of these things. So it's a little hard to know. But I think we know how we get them there. And you have heard it already coming out of the White House. There's talk of what I was talking about a year ago, which is just paying every Greenlander $100,000. There are only 57,000 of them. That's a big, big deal, and it's nothing money to us. Second, we don't really need them to be technically part of the United States. We don't need to annex them to achieve the president's ends and Greenland's. They can become independent, and we sign a compact of free association with them in the same way we have 3 countries, island countries all, in the Pacific. That gets them all the benefits of independence with none of the costs.
Can you go a little bit more into the historical context of Greenland and Denmark and how Denmark has any claim to it at all?
Well, there's this myth that the Vikings have been there forever, but that's actually really not true. The Viking settlement there was abandoned or died out, not really clear which, more than 400 years ago. And then the Inuits moved into the area while the Vikings were there. They stayed after the Vikings left. And many, many years later, during the 18th century, the Danes came and established the settlement. So they are a colonial power in exactly the same way Great Britain was in America and in India and in Kenya. They are absolutely extending the age of colonialism into the 21st century. And there's tremendous resentment of that in Greenland. However, they know that independence costs a lot of money. And again, the solution I just described solves that problem for them. They get 100% sovereignty and autonomy while also getting their embassies paid for by the U.S., their defense paid for, their development paid for, and I think a large check to every citizen of the country.
Yeah, you bring up a really interesting sort of middle road solution that most importantly gives probably what Greenlanders themselves would want the most. Trump says that there are all kinds of Russian and Chinese naval activity happening around the island of Greenland. What are you aware of?
Well, the Danes are pretending that's not real, but they know better. You know, the truth is the Arctic is really heating up, if you'll forgive the term. I'm not a big global warming guy, but if you had the kind of global warming Al Gore believes in, those sea lanes would be free very soon, and it would be dramatically cheaper to ship goods around the world by sailing through the Arctic Circle than by going through Panama or Suez or around Cape Horn or the Cape of Good Hope. So that area is really important. Even if Al Gore is completely wrong, the advent of widespread cheap nuclear power, which is unfolding right now, means that you're going to get a lot more nuclear icebreakers, and those Arctic sea lanes are going to matter. On top of that, there are all kinds of defense ramifications for all three countries, and there are tremendous resources in Greenland, rare earth elements, oil and gas, you name it, that have never been developed, that Denmark doesn't have the technology or the money to develop, that the Greenlanders certainly can't, and America must.
So much at stake. Such a great breakdown. Appreciate you joining us today. Rod D. Martin, great to see you.
Great to be here.